Liked by the sound of violence.
You're the reason why I started watching fights like this.
Good.
I'm going to let you know.
Good. You're finally hopefully you'll start learning something, damn it.
Well, I haven't for one. Apparently I haven't, because I had him winning. I had him winning rounds 1 through 4. Even though John was walking him down, John was pushing the pace, John didn't land the significant strikes throughout those rounds.
Tell me, what does that walking him down mean in the fight?
Nothing. It doesn't mean shit unless you're throwing something.
There you go.
Yeah,
unless you're scoring.
Yes, and he wasn't scoring. He wasn't scoring anything more significant than what Dominic Reyes was. I'm going strictly based off of, I'm going strictly based off of our conversations, you and I. I started watching fights the way that you told me to, because that's the way the judging system should be ran. It should be. Look, just because you're putting pressure and you're not throwing things, I got to agree with you. I hate agreeing with you. It drives me insane. I hate it.
What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are an MMA podcast to let you know the MMA podcast you should catch, skip, and can't miss each week. I am Pulver, and I'm back yet again with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
Doing great, man. Finally got that new laptop that I've been needing for a while.
Yeah, it's so far working pretty good. Your fucking audio, your video hasn't changed size on me. Your audio sounds better.
Okay, so if the video hasn't changed size, what the fuck was that indicative of last time?
Your old laptop was a giant piece of shit.
Okay, yeah. Huh, that's a trip.
Yeah.
Do you think it just had to do with just the processing of the shitty laptop?
It was a combination of that and the terrible Wi-Fi connection it was using. So,
okay.
I know.
Cool. I know why too. Because when it was on Wi-Fi, it couldn't even connect to the 5G, dude. And this one can. Right. It's an actual app. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
That's right. So I hope you guys enjoyed Tech Talk with Chris and Chris. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. But we are recording on another rare, as you can tell in the background, it's hella sunny behind me. We are recording at, 9 a.m. about on Saturday, the day of the card. So I am actually, I'm drinking some coffee, but I figured as a backup, I also went to Beechwood when I went up to Anaheim, and the one beer I didn't have because they had a local coffee porter on tap, I did not have Mocha Machine from them, which I'm pretty excited about. So Chris, while I take a sip of this, you want to get into your Papa Vodka presents, Doug Stanhope presents, your sponsor that's probably not even booze?
It's definitely not booze because I'm on day 16 of sobriety.
We should clarify sobriety.
Well, it's day 16 of no alcohol.
I was going to say.
Yeah. I mean, you got to smoke the greenery, right? As the stoners would say.
I'm pretty sure there might have been a weed smoking on this here show.
Yes. Allegedly. Just kidding. It's legal, guys. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's super legal down here.
Yeah, so the coffee that I'm drinking right now, my mom, she works at Trader Joe's, so she hooks it up whenever I get to visit her. But yeah, I think it's like some coffee from Thailand. It's pretty fucking great.
Nice. Trader Joe's coffee is pretty bomb.
Yeah. So it's good, man. It's good having good quality coffee. It actually goes a long way. I know that sounds kind of pretentious and snobby, but like, come on, no one wants to wake up to Folgers. Fuck what those commercials say. So
it's the best part of waking up, bro.
With doo-doo in your cup.
Oh, Jesus. I will say this Mocha Machine, Imperial Coffee Chocolate Porter, it's fucking, obviously, as you can tell by the name and because it's Beechwood, it's fucking delicious.
Nice. By the way, I had asked my head brewer at work. I'm like, oh, so what's the deal with toppling Goliath? And he's like, oh, it's just another hyped beer.
That's because the guy. Okay, well, I don't want to out who the head brewer of your work is, but that motherfucker hates hazies.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't. He didn't think hazies are the best. I mean, he's like, yeah, they're great hazies. He's like, but a lot of hazies taste the same. That's how I feel. But
no, and he's totally right. A lot of them are pretty generic.
yeah, because I even asked him straight up. I'm like, who in San Diego, from your opinion, makes some of the best hazies? He's like, oh, Modern Times. That's what he said.
Yeah, they've definitely upped it. Mickler makes pretty good hazies, but they can be really hit or miss.
Yeah, I like what they did with some of their hazies.
Yeah, like the Misty Elliott and the Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
Those
I mean,
are
I probably
pretty good.
should stop talking. Briska might accidentally oust me too, because I mean, it doesn't matter if anyone knows where I work, but it's just kind of fun not talking about it.
Oh, for sure. And plus, but yes, he is definitely one of the people in San Diego. He's one of like 5 who you'd be like, there's like 5 eligible people, and one of them left society, so it's not him.
Definitely not him.
Yeah.
And shouts out to Society being in Cannes. My brother had brought a 6-pack.
Yeah,
I was like,
saw
I am
that.
jealous right now.
Yeah, they have a bunch of their stuff in cans now, which I'm curious to see how that tastes. Because a lot of their stuff's so based on fresh IPA. Anyway, we are not a booze show. It's 8 a.m. and we're out here or 9 a.m. We're
It's
out here
not.
talking
Yeah,
about booze.
I got work in a little under 3 hours too, so probably shouldn't ramble.
Yeah, well, on that note, we will go ahead and get into this. But Chris, why don't you start us off in format? Oh, I should mention off the top. If we mention any podcasts or anything during the show, you can find the link in the description. If your podcast player is worth anything, if it's not, there should be a link in your show notes to the website, or you can go to thesoundofviolence.com, and we'll have all the links to everything we talk about. You know what I should do that I keep always forgetting to? I should start off with some podcast news off the top. Which we were doing. So, excuse me, Stephen the Warman Wright recently joined Between Rounds Radio. He has his show, the Warman Kickfighting Podcast. And so it's mostly just about kickboxing, but I really enjoy it. He's, of course, the former striking coach of Johnny Hendricks, and has worked with a bunch of guys. Really, really interesting dude, super knowledgeable. I believe he's the matchmaker for Glory, or maybe talent scout for Glory, something like that. But really interesting dude, and it's cool that he's doing his show now on Between Rounds. It's not behind the paywall, though, so you can, I believe he still has his regular feed as well, or you can get it on the Between Rounds feed, so that's pretty dope. And then, did you hear the news about a certain San Diego strawweight starting a podcast?
No.
Motherfucking Angie Hill has a podcast with her husband now called Ceremonial Weigh-In.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, because I know the Two Straws, she's been done with that for a while with Jessica Penne, right?
Yeah, that's on hiatus right now. Just because Penne doesn't have time because she's traveling a lot for like CFFC cards and stuff like that. And Angie's in the middle of camps and stuff, so
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay,
so,
nice. That should be good.
yeah, I'm excited about it. They didn't do one this week, so I'm not doing it as a new show this week. But if they do one next week or whenever the next one they put out, it'll definitely be on my list. Cool, man.
Oh, yeah,
Well, that's the news I got for this week. So, Chris, why don't you start us off in format and let us know the MMA podcast you recommend people catch this week?
I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the A-Side live chat. Those are Jose Youngs and Pizza Carroll. Of course, just like most podcasts this week, they mainly talked about the Jones versus Reyes. Some people called it a controversy. Some people called it a robbery. It's definitely not a robbery.
I disagree, because motherfucking Dominic Reyes, who almost everybody agrees won that fight, that motherfucker is way more broke than if he won that fight on the judges' scorecards. Somebody robbed Dominic Reyes.
The only robbery, I should say, in my opinion, in the sense, is that one judge gave the fight 4 rounds to Jones. That's hilarious.
Oh, let's go ahead and
insulting.
name Ben Solis by name.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Just in general, the theme around this card was bad judging, especially in the Lauren Murphy and Andrea Lee fight, when a specific judge was not even watching the fight.
So that's actually wrong. Joe Rogan doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I'm glad you had to clip, because too many podcasts were mentioning that.
I know, and it's frustrating because it was made very clear on a bunch of different platforms that that's not the case. But yeah, no. The judge Rogan was talking about was just a commission member, wasn't even a judge. Also, the person who was a judge that people were saying was looking at the floor. They're saying, I believe Ben Cartledge, who's been on Severe MMA Premium talking judging with Sean Sheehan. He said that the UFC uses floor monitors sometimes.
Well, yeah, because I remember when I was watching the card, I did see a specific judge. Judge is wearing glasses, not that matters. But I remember, like, because I was like, okay, why the fuck is someone saying that? And I went back and watched it, and he was looking down. But I'm like, wait, he's clearly looking at a monitor. Why the fuck would he be looking at like this or at his phone? Like, no, he's literally just looking at the fight right there. They have their own little accessible monitor. Like, yeah. I don't understand why someone would be like, oh, he's not looking at the fight. You got to be looking straight. It's like, well, why the fuck would you look straight when there would be something blocking your view?
Yeah, anybody who sat,
when you can literally just see the whole fight right here.
Yeah, anybody who sat cage side for anything, it's real hard to see, especially depending on the size of the cage.
Yeah, like I'm short as shit, so I imagine if I even sat cage side, either I'm in between two of the beams or edges of the octagon where I could see straight on, which would be amazing. You know, I know like most of those people, you know how they have like I remember someone was like saying, dude, why is everyone wearing like Beats? And I imagine that's provided or that's just part of the seat because everyone's wearing like those red Beats.
No, I don't think so. Like most of the time they don't use noise canceling stuff, which they should.
Okay, then what the fuck is that? I'm curious then.
Yeah.
Not that I'll ever get a chance to have cage side seats.
That's not true. We've gotten cage side seats before at the fucking AMI fights at the Del Mar Fair multiple times.
I'm talking about at a UFC pay-per-view, but yeah. So that's that.
Anyway, yeah, back to A-Side Live Chat.
Yeah, should we just say, get out of the way, how did you score that fight, the main event?
Oh, I had it the same way most educated people have it, which is 3-2 Reyes. He won the first three.
First three? Yeah. I did initially score for him as well, first 3 rounds.
Oh, shit. You're going to come back and try and say John Jones won round 2?
No. So I still scored it for Reyes, but when they were reading the scores, when I heard 49-46, I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, well, that can't be for Jones.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I think everybody had that thought.
But I remember I was watching it, the homie Jake, I was watching at his house. I'm like, bro, like, they need John Jones to get that 14th title win. Like, they're giving it to him right now. Just watch. And they were like, once I heard and, I'm like, oh, it's and still. I'm like, yeah, they're just protecting John Jones. I mean, not that it was like he clear in a way lost. Because I think he clearly won those last 2 rounds because Reyes slowed down.
Definitely.
But yeah, I knew it was coming. Once he won rounds 4 and 5, I'm like, oh, they're giving it to Jones. They're giving it to Jones. They're giving it to Jones. And yeah, so the only argument if I were to score for Jones, I guess I'd say 2-4-5. Just because in round
2 or 3, they're both pretty close.
Because 3, I think Reyes rocked him. Like he was actually kind of off of his feet for a second. That's why I scored it for him clearly. I think Reyes, not clearly he won round 1. I think he decisively won round 3. Round 2, some people scored a 10-10.
There's 2 people who scored a 10-10.
Yeah,
John Anik and Joe Silva. And it's
I think Brad Okamoto kind of might have scored it because he scored it for Reyes as well.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, either call it a draw. No one likes calling a draw. Should a fight? Like, do you think that
absolutely fights should be draws if there's 10-8s? 10-10s are like real fucking rare, and I think there's a way clearer argument that Dominic Reyes landed a super hard uppercut and a couple other clean shots that probably was the advantage. John Jones did do a really good job of blocking all of the flurry early in that second round, but defense doesn't get you fucking points.
And shouts out to fucking Jones's chin. Jesus Christ, he got kicked by like a clean left high kick. Like, goddamn.
That dude no-sell shots better than anybody on the planet.
Yeah. So there's that. That's our opinion on that. Take it as you will. Then they talked about the co-main briefly. They said Roxanne versus Valentina as main event in Russia and have Kevin Lee versus Islam Makhachev. That'd be great.
Card.
I mean, I don't want to see Roxanne get murdered, but okay, sure.
Everybody else does, though, evidently.
Evidently, right. They talked about, we did a poll on Twitter, and they said immediately there's 4,000 responses saying Reyes. They talked about how controversial was this result. They're like, okay, what about how Johnny Hendricks, beat GSP, right, in that rematch? What was it, GSP's last title fight before he retired? like that should be more controversial than this Jones Reyes fight. And then they talked about what was it? There was another I can't remember right now, but yeah, which trilogy fight do you want to see next? They said, what are the odds of the Diaz brothers returning in 2020? They said Nick, 0 chance. I agreed. Like Nate, maybe if he fights Connor or Masvidal. They talk about ways shitty judging can be prevented. I know someone mentioned an open scoring system at some point. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to implement that for Invicta coming up in March in Kansas.
I saw that, yeah.
So that'll be pretty interesting.
And then they talk about how trash Reebok is, and I believe the contract ends this year. I hope.
I think it still has a little bit of time left. But what was interesting is they brought up that Endeavor owns a piece in Under Armour. And Under Armour was the rumored people who were going to be the sponsor originally. Before Reebok came in, the rumor was it was going to be Under Armour.
Do you think Under Armour, not only would they pay more than the fighters more than Reebok, do you think they would have... No, you don't think so? It'd still be very controlled?
The people who are going to be setting up that relationship are Endeavor.
Oh, yeah.
The less they pay the fighters, the more they make. Like, for example, I think the stat came out that in 2019, fighters earned something like 16% of the revenue split.
I saw something like that.
Which is lower than in previous years. And also, everybody wants to wonder, like, oh, why don't they stack cards when Conor McGregor's on it? And why did Donald Cerrone only get $200,000? It's like, well, if you can only give fighters 16% of the profit, you can't add other big names that cost a lot of money to that card. So
it's like another reason why there needs to be a union, but there won't be, not as long as certain people are in charge. So that's what I have for A-Side Live Chat.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I liked it. It was good.
Cool. Let's see. So I have a couple catches. I'll jump into one of them, which is Heavy Hands, episode 303.
That was a good one.
Yeah, with Tom Elliott as a guest, elder statesman of the vaping scooter gang over at the fight site, I believe. But it's just a really good episode. Talk a lot about John and all the fight site guys, which I agree with, generally are pretty hard on heavyweights and light heavyweights, saying their technique is pretty trash compared to every other lighter division. And they're real hard on John Jones just getting away with shit because of his build, and that's about it. So it was interesting hearing them kind of talk pretty decisively about, like, John not facing many southpaws or counter fighters, and him resorting to a lot of putting his hands out and running backwards when his defense wasn't working, or when he couldn't use kicks to keep range with Dom Reyes. So I'm
surprised there was no eye pokes.
Man, he was trying his best.
No, I saw.
Shit.
Yeah.
It was brutal. So that motherfucker with his outstretched fingers, him and God, what's the Juan Adams? Both those motherfuckers.
Juan Adams, someone that should not even have been in the octagon.
Well, yeah. How does that dude never wrestle? Isn't he a D1 wrestler?
That's what we were talking about in the preview.
Jesus.
Remember, I was like, I think
that's why you didn't pick him, right?
No, I was like, Juan Adams should win if he uses his wrestling, and that's as the meme, big if true. Yeah, exactly. Literally the epitome of that. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's like, this guy can knock me out, but I can wrestle the shit out of him. Fuck it, I can stand. Oop.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Anyway, the rest of that episode was really good too. They talk about Chevy Shanks just blowing through Caitlin Chukagian.
Yeah, that sheer difference in speed. I remember when I was watching that fight live. I'm like, dude, look at this. This is insane.
I want to give big props to Caitlin Chukagian for making that a fight, because I was so worried she wasn't going to engage, and she just kept walking into the fire. Unfortunately for her.
Yeah. How about taking that fucking spinning?
The wheel kick. She took the fucking elbow on the ground. God damn, Valentina dominated her on the ground. I did not think that's how that was going to go. I knew she was going to have an advantage, but...
And fucking crucifix to top it off.
Yeah, I figured being with Danaher, she would at least have some answers on the ground. But
how do you get out of a crucifix like that? Do you have to kind of flip yourself backwards?
Bisping actually talked about it on Believe You Me, episode 198 this week. Basically, you need to turn over and reach and try and hook their leg with your leg.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I listened to that Believe You Me as well. I didn't have too many notes, but I remember
Bisping with this fucking... He teaches you how to pummel.
Well, I remember he's like, yeah, it's actually really easy to get out of that. Depending, he's like, well, it does depend on who's on top of you. He's like, but it's actually a lot easier than people think.
Right, and then he explained how if Valentina Shevchenko is off
Yeah,
him,
I remember that. He's like, oh, I'm just gonna bench press her off me.
Yeah, I'll just push you in the face.
Yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, that Heavy Hands ep was really good. They also did a bonus episode where they talked about Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz in SpongeBob font. So that was real good and goofy. But yeah, Heavy Hands, great as always. And I really like Tom Elliott as a guest. I hope he's on again.
Yeah, man, he was solid. It's a good insight. Then again, it's one of those podcasts where I kind of listen to it more than kind of write notes down.
Right. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Did you have any other catches for this week?
I think that's it. Because most of the other stuff is like honorable mention or I don't really. I'll probably do a combination of can't miss or I'll figure something out.
All right.
Like I said, I was kind of a little light on podcasts this week.
I hear you. Yeah, there was a lot of podcasts, but a lot of them all talked about it's just all scoring talk. And man, were some people saying some insane shit about how scoring works. Holy, including fucking Joe Rogan and Dominic Cruz on the broadcast, both just not understanding scoring criteria. But we'll get to that in a bit. Menace and the Man, episode 64 was my other catch. This was from last week. But it was really good. They had Jessica Penne and Beck Rawlings on. Excuse me. This beer must be working. And yeah, they just talk. It's just Jessica Penne and Beck Rawlings hanging out. It's a lot of fun. They talk a lot of shit. They talk about Beck's back at Alliance doing her camp for her Bellator fight in Dublin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. They're also talking about kind of how Jessica Penne for a while had like a fighter house kind of where a bunch of people were just coming through and rooming with her. But evidently you can understand how that started getting fucking rough real early.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there were some Skype issues in this one, so if that's going to bother you, it's going to bother you, but it's worth it. It's a lot of fun. Just they talk about everything. That's kind of how this show goes. Half of it's about MMA, the other half isn't. They get into the OnlyFans stuff. This is actually where I learned that Angie Hill has a podcast too, so shouts to that.
Oh yeah, so what was at first I was assuming is the OnlyFans thing a joke or is it just because she needs money for her USADA thing?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Not even for the USADA thing, just her and Beck Rawlings were like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And it's like you think it would be. They're both good looking ladies. It's alright.
Yeah.
So shouts to that. If you want to be a creep, go check out their OnlyFans pages.
Yeah, right. Jesus.
Let's see. Yeah, it's just a good episode overall. I really like Dennis Bermudez and Stan as co-host. I think they're funny, and I always enjoy Jessica Penne on there. She's been on with Angie Hill in the past, so definitely a good one. I recommend it. Episode 64, A Menace and the Man.
Hell yeah, man.
Sweet. So do you have any, let's see, do you have any MMA, I should do the Eugene S. Robinson style disclaimer beforehand, which I always forget to do, but just because we say to skip your podcast does not mean we hate you or we hate your podcast. I actually like both these podcasts. However, maybe you say some crazy shit, some really, really crazy shit. Maybe you don't talk about MMA at all. So those are my two this week. We'll get into it, but Chris, do you have any MMA podcasts you recommend people skip?
Yeah, this one's there's a caveat to this one. It's more of less a half skip because the first 15 minutes were actually very in-depth discussion of last week's card and the judging criteria and how we need a new scoring system. There's also a new podcast. I mentioned them last week. Didn't get the chance to listen to. I listened to the Schmo Zone podcast, episode 2, with Dave Schmullinson and Helen Yee. The first part of it was excellent. They both are very articulate. I think they know what they're talking about. They've been covering MMA. Helen's probably been covering MMA. Well, then again, I don't know how long Dave's been covering MMA.
They've both been doing it for a while. Even
in character, he's actually ironically asking great questions when he's in character. Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes he asks fucking trash Robbie Fox type questions, but
yeah. They discuss judging and controversy among the fights on the card. Controversy, right? Yeah, they had mentioned, oh, judge looking at their phone, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they said at this point the UFC should adapt and implement a new scoring system because the sport is still young at 26 years. He played his schmo interview with Alexander Hernandez. I'm not sure what that dude's up to right now. He kept saying he's like trying to look for opponents. No one wants to fight him. I don't know. I think that kid's still young. I feel like that dude still has some potential.
For sure.
Says he wants to fight Connor, who doesn't, right?
Oh,
at
Jesus.
this point. And then the reason why this is a half skip is because he had WWF/WWE legend Rob Van Dam.
The whole fucking show.
Yeah, who talks and sounds like Steven Seagal.
Oh, 100%. Also, he's so high.
Yeah, he definitely. I wasn't watching the video, so I probably should watch the YouTube version of it next. Yeah, he talks about stunts. It's just for me. I'm not into the WWE. If I was, I'd be, oh fuck yeah, Rob Van Dam. I'm just not into the WWE.
Yeah.
This is why it's like a half skip. I'm not gonna disrespect the podcast saying, oh fuck this, it's WWE.
How much did Rob Van Dam talk about weed during that?
I didn't get that far. I got
smart.
like 30 minutes in. And
I bet
like,
it was
okay,
a lot. That motherfucker loves weed. I've been on I was an intern back in the day on the podcast, and good God, fucking Rob Van Dam would always be on that show, so goddamn high, rolling ridiculous blunts with wax in it and shit back in the
I imagine it's because he probably had a fuckload of injuries.
And he was involved with a bunch of dispensaries up in LA, if I remember right.
Oh, nice. Well, good for him, because I saw like the thumbnail for the show. It showed Rob Van Dam, that guy. I was thinking, oh wow, he let himself go. I'm like, wait, that dude's probably like in his late 50s.
Yeah, well, also all wrestlers look like that after like 20. So
yeah, after years of fucking steroids and just constantly just killing your body. Like, hey, let me just drive my shoulder into a thing of metal stairs and fuck it up, or let me just jump on a half sawed in half. Like, even if you jump on those tables that are already made to break, you're still fucking yourself up. Even when that's how easy it is to like fracture a rib and all that shit.
True, but it's not like it ever turns out poorly. I mean,
yeah, actually, I can't. Now that I think about it, I wonder if there's ever been like an actual like taping of one of those shows where someone's like seriously fucking hurt. I'm sure it's happened.
Dude, fucking what's his face? That one Hart brother died on fucking film. Is it Owen Hart? No, he's the one that's alive, right? It's Owen Hart.
What do you have?
Bret Hart's alive.
I imagine he had like a heart attack.
It's the one that fell 40 feet from a fucking thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's rough. Anyway, what are we doing? What is happening with this show?
Keep going down in a rabbit hole.
That's what happens when pro wrestling gets involved. Everything goes off the fucking rails. We start talking about carnies and their goddamn injuries. Pretty soon,
hell yeah, brother.
We're gonna be talking about where the nearest fucking chain restaurant near the Hyatt in Fort Lauderdale is. The fuck is going on? Anyway, let's see. So my skip, which Jesus. My skip this week is Anakin Florian, episode 236. Because they say some unconscionable shit in this episode. Jesus. They just keep trying to justify the scorecards in the most ridiculous, insane ways. Kenny at one point says giving John 4 rounds is absolutely reasonable. Because if they're close rounds, then it could be 4-1. No. I would argue that if you score that fight 4-1, it means you scored a lot of rounds wrong. So that it says you're even less competent, and it's a bigger indictment of poor judging and your inability to tell close rounds. Obviously, people should be able to tell round 1 and round 5. It kind of tells your competency as a judge if you can't figure out 2 through 3, or 2 and 3 at least. So, Jesus Christ. Kenny also explains why he gave the second round to John Jones, or he could see someone giving the second round to John Jones, because John Jones blocked the whole flurry from Dominic Reyes. It's not at all how scoring works. I don't know how you get there. John Anik gives the second round a 10-10. I also don't know how you get there. It's really frustrating. Just the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're from Boston, so we're used to Boston people having crazy takes sometimes.
That's fair. The one thing that's credible about that show, though, is they do have Ray Longo come on, and Ray Longo is just like, the fuck are you guys talking about? That's fucking
I
insane.
did hear a sound bit from that.
Yeah, it's really good hearing Ray come on and be like, hey, you guys are giving this dude way too much credit. He has a history of turning in awful, contradictory scorecards, and it is so goddamn obvious that 1 through 3 went to Reyes. I mean, I understand arguments. I understand where you're coming from if you argue 2 and 3 didn't go to Reyes. You're wrong. We can definitely pull up the ABC rules and explain why you're wrong. But, Jesus Christ, 4-1 is not reasonable. And Kenny Florian needs to calm the fuck down with that talk.
Yeah, I remember even Ray Longo, I think there was a sound bit of him saying, oh, but the stats say otherwise. And fucking Anna kept interrupting. The stats don't matter, Ray. The stats are...
Which is hilarious because Anik a lot of times uses stats.
Yeah,
I agree.
The stats don't matter.
You can't go by punch stats because it's literally just someone sitting live while watching the fight and hitting a key on the keyboard.
I mean, he's not entirely wrong. I think what Ray Longo was trying to say is when you look at the end of the fight, more with like as far as like strikes round by round and like total strikes landed.
And I think even without the stats in front of you, it's pretty easy to see that Dominic Reyes was outlanding John Jones.
Yeah.
And you don't
you're right.
You don't get points for defense. So.
Yeah, you basically have some guy going, oh, there's a punch landed, beep, 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 you know.
My favorite is all the geniuses saying that John had octagon control, which how the fucking scoring system works.
Yeah, that's not, the score system isn't entirely on that.
It's 0. It doesn't, you get 0 points for octagon control unless striking and grappling is exactly even, and in the rules that says that should be a rare occurrence.
Yeah, because even if you go by that metric, then it's like, okay, then how come Dominic Cruz defended his belt multiple times by never having octagon forward control, right?
Exactly. And octagon control doesn't just mean walking forward either.
Yeah.
Like if you're constantly making the person turn and you're countering off of that, well, but then again, that also, if you're countering off of that, it no longer matters if you have octagon control. It's frustrating. All of it is frustrating. It's been a frustrating week for MMA podcast, to be honest. Let's see. Did you have any other skips for this week?
No, that's it.
So my other skip, and to be fair, this was a really funny episode, but believe you me, episode 199, they literally don't talk about MMA at all. They even say halfway through, we talked about MMA a lot at the beginning of the week, so we're just going to talk to ex-producer Shannon, and we're going to make up a date for her. Which,
okay.
I mean, the dates were great. At one point, Bisping is giving money to kids in Barcelona during the date. I believe Barack Obama and some fucking singer are banging Shannon in Lewis's date at one point. It's really weird. It goes off the rails. It's a fine episode. It's just 0% by MMA.
Yeah, so if you're just in the mood to not listen to MMA talk, then
might not be a bad one.
No.
Let's see. So do you have any can't miss episodes for this week?
Not really. I'll mention. Not really. I mean, I'll mention Fights Gone By was really good.
The one earlier in the week.
Yeah. He had mentioned today. He's like, today's the anniversary of Sugar Ray Robinson versus Jake LaMotta. I think he said it was their 5th or 6th fight. It's the one where LaMotta's like, "Oh, you didn't knock me down, Ray. You didn't knock me down," and he like slips like a bunch of punches. Oh no, this was the one from I think just yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's 195.
Yeah, because you say it's 195. You say the card this weekend is absolute hot garbage. He mostly talked boxing for the first like 10 minutes. He's like, I'm gonna talk boxing because this card sucks ass. He talked about punching power and technique behind punching power, which is interesting. He talked about BJ Penn being involved in a car crash, suspected DUI. He was knocked out by the airbag. He's like, people are too quick to assassinate his character. He's like, based on like this dude legitimately needs time off from non-contact to his brain. Like he says his brain is becoming Swiss cheese at this point. And yeah, that's scary for him. The guy needs help. But we've known this for a while. I talked about Gegard Mousasi lined up to fight Douglas Lima for the vacant 185 Bellator title because, unfortunately for Rafael Lovato Jr., he has like a brain illness, right, or a condition.
Cavernoma, I believe is the name.
Yeah, that's scary. Hopefully the guy could get good medical attention or just help with that. But again, I am not knowledgeable about that situation.
Wait, are
So
you saying you're not a doctor?
maybe
Have I been misled?
if someone pays me, if I pay enough to get a PhD, then I could become one.
Man, I've been pitching our show as the only show to have a doctor, or the only MMA show to have a doctor on it since Heavy Hands. But I guess I really should change that slogan.
Yeah, right. And that's when like someone brings up, "I'm a weed doctor, man."
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, he says how annoying is it to ever watch John Dodson fight in general? Like that's touche.
And nowadays, back in the day, it wasn't.
Back in the day, it was fun. Yeah.
But yeah, nowadays it's a throw.
On Tough, it was fun.
Just tell TJ Dillashaw that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
By the way, do you see TJ Dillashaw is taking back over the throne?
What? I don't.
He posted a thing. He was getting an IV or something, but he posted a thing saying he's taking back over the throne.
Oh, that reminds me.
THROWN. He's taking back over the throne.
Wait, how do you spell it?
THROWN.
Oh, okay. I did see, because I still follow him on Instagram. He did have a video of him like climbing a fucking tree or some shit. I'm like, oh wow, this guy definitely has just I'm not training gut. So good for him, just living that dad life. I mean, good for that guy. I mean, he's a fucking cheater, but so are a lot of other fighters that haven't got caught yet.
Yeah.
Go figure. Yeah, and then Jack. Sorry, I'm going off a tangent here. And then Jack's like, "Yeah, we need a fighters union." He's like, "The most interesting fight on this card is Yancy Medeiros versus Lando Venata."
Yeah, I think everybody agrees on that.
And then I'll just do a quick shout out because I want to get rid of my notes. Eurobass 69 was good.
Yeah.
They hyped up Nathaniel Wood, who is a bantamweight prospect. He's the one fighting John Dodson. They had Valentina Shevchenko on the phone. That was a decent interview. She talks about how they said, "How do you celebrate after a fight?" She says she loves just kind of being out in nature, whether it's like walking in the woods or being out on the lake. That's her style. Just kind of meditating, which I could totally see that because she always seems so fucking composed and sharp. What's insane is they said you currently manage yourself. You don't have a manager. She talked about how she had a manager in the beginning. But she says she's just found a way to kind of just deal with managing herself, which is interesting. I know there's actually some NFL players that do that, which some people think is stupid because they don't negotiate contracts. But you know what? Whatever. If you're well versed and able to kind of crack numbers down, and you think you could do well for yourself, then fuck it, all the power to you.
Yeah,
lots of money you're paying someone. And they asked her, "Is it disrespectful to other flyweights that other people want to discuss potential fights with Zhang Weili or Amanda Nunes again?" She's like, "No, it's completely normal for people to bring that up," which I agree. And then Pizzi and Niall were like, "Hey, we're embarrassed for the shitty judging in Houston, but if that ever happened in Dublin, that'd be fucking really sad."
Yeah, I mean, Texas has been known for their great decision-making since their weed laws that made, like, 6 fights no contests over the years. Fucking poor Jessica I lost a fight because of the smallest amount of weed.
What was it? Courtney Casey? Was that her name?
Maybe.
She was another one who got in trouble for weed.
Yeah, a bunch of people. I think Matt Riddle probably in it. I think one of the times he popped was from Texas. It's frustrating.
And then the end of the podcast, they talked to Leah McCourt, who had talked about how her main event on a Bellator card.
Yeah. That was cool. I think Nathaniel Wood and Ross Houston were on that episode too.
Yeah, I didn't finish it entirely. But,
yeah, the Nathaniel Wood stuff is cool because you hear him talk about coming back from the injury, and then Ross Houston leaving Cage Warriors is it's an interesting move. So
yeah, and then lastly, I had listened to half the battle, but those guys, they preview the fights, and shouts out to Ray Borg missing weight again, which is unfortunate because if you recall, the man said that he would never fight again in MMA.
Yeah.
If he missed weight.
I mean, he missed weight at bantamweight last time, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's rough. Let's see. I'll run through. Actually, you know what? I have a new show that I actually have 2 new shows that I'll get through quickly. I listened to No Off Season, episode 1. This is hosted by Rory R. And The guest was Brianna Van Buren, who you guys would know from the Invicta Phoenix Rising series and from, I believe she's had 2 UFC fights. 1 UFC fight? I think she had 1 and then she had to drop out of the second one because of an injury. But she talks about the history of her nickname and growing up in Gilroy. They get into why she had to drop out of the Cyphers fight for having trigger finger, which I think is the same thing Ian McCall has, where like you have trouble closing, you're like making a fist. They talk about how she's getting surgery and she wants to be back fighting around International Fight Week. Talk about duck hunting. It's just a really fun interview, and I liked Rory's interview style, so I recommend it for sure, and I'm excited to see what he has going forward on that.
Cool, man. So yeah, all of a sudden my computer is fucking taking off like a jet of a fucking goddamn aircraft carrier.
Luckily, it's not too bad on our side, so
okay, we're good now.
Let's see. The other new show I listened to was the Triple G show, the Gorgeous George and Goes show, which is their Patreon. They did a new show format on there called the MMA Avengers, which was Gorgeous George, Goes, John Morgan, and Dan Tom. And they just kind of sat down and did like a roundtable style show talking about recent news and stuff like that. They get into stuff like the open scoring debate. Is John the GOAT? Should the UFC use their own refs and judges? How to fix scoring? It's really interesting, and anytime you get the MMA junkie guys together with John Morgan and Dan Tom, definitely on board. So I enjoyed it.
Nice. Oh yeah.
Most definitely. I didn't get into my can't misses, did I? I just went straight to new shows. You got me all thrown off because you went to honorable mentions. All right, so my can't misses for this week is both the Severe MMA episode 246 podcast and the Severe MMA podcast premium episode called MMA Judging Criteria Explained. Big shouts out to Shawnee Podcasts, a.k.a. the Pod God, Sean Sheehan, over at Severe MMA. That dude has put real emphasis on focusing on the actual scoring criteria as it's written. He recently had Ben Cartledge on, which I've talked about a bunch of times on their Patreon, and just for like I think an hour or two discussing just kind of how judging works and the whole process behind it, and kind of how criteria plays into it. Some examples, really interesting stuff. And then he just continued to do. Have super knowledgeable conversations this week with Graham, and I fucking enjoyed the hell out of it. They talk about, actually Sean was one of the people to point out Rogan was wrong over and over again, which I appreciate, because Rogan saying he was on his phone and looking at the wrong person and all that bullshit is frustrating. He also talks a lot about how Cruz and Rogan, it's insane how little they know about the scoring criteria. Because they just decide to score fights on things that completely don't count, which is really weird. Cruz is also one of those, and Rogan are one of those people who, anytime anyone hits a takedown in the last 10 seconds, they're still saying, "Oh, well, that might have won him the round."
I fucking hate that,
dude. It quite literally says in the rules, word for word, that if you don't do anything with the takedown, it doesn't actually get you points.
Yeah, so literally what John Jones couldn't do.
Yeah,
exactly. In the fucking fight.
But that's what won him the fight, Chris. Didn't you hear?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Remember, like, I knew John Jones figured he lost based on his reaction, and at the end of the fight, first thing he says, takedowns want me to fight. Takedowns want me to fight. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, it's just an interesting episode overall. I really like that they're having those discussions. They also talk about how Dom thought Ilir Latifi won, which is even funnier. And then also they preview the Rancho Rio card.
Got the underhooks.
I know.
Sorry, I'd
100%. They also preview the Rancho Rio card, and Sean talks about his unbridled love for Michel Pereira versus Diego Sanchez, and how it's his favorite fucking fight in all of time.
Like, I don't give a fuck about the card today, but that fight's gonna be hilarious.
It's going, yes.
Holy shit!
I can't wait for someone to swan dive. I don't know which one. I hope
it's like knockout by fucking like backflip kick or some.
I hope it's knockout by dual cartwheel kicks. Like they both throw a cartwheel kick and one of them goes out.
Like I hope when that fight, if that fight lives up to the wackiness and just zaniness of what the fuck it could be, I hope whatever the result is, if it's great, someone should just put some crazy fucking music like the most ridiculous music
Oh,
behind
you
it.
just put yakety sax over it, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. That or fucking just the Benny Hill.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, Severe MMA episode 246 was really good, and then Sean did a premium episode on their Patreon where he just literally reads the rules from the ABC website and explains each step of it. It's extremely informative, and I bet you most of you have not heard or read these rules. It explains what counts as effective grappling and what counts as effective striking. Talks about the 3 Ds, which John McCarthy always goes over, the dominance, damage, and duration, I believe are the 3. And it's just really interesting and very, very informative. So I can't recommend it highly enough. And on that same note, the other can't miss episode I had is Weighing In, episode 36, which is Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy. And again, actually, as you guys heard on the intro, Josh Thompson is one of these fighters who used to score fights like Dom Cruz and Joe Rogan until he was around Big John enough that Big John explained to him how the actual scoring system works. And Josh Thompson's like, I can't even watch fights the same way anymore because you've forever broken what counts and what doesn't. So it's really interesting, and it's cool hearing someone that we used to be on the other side of those scoring debates and now is on the actual logical, here's what the rules are side, which is insane that that's not what every conversation is. It's insane that people still say you gotta beat the champ to be the champ.
I fucking want to
still, it's the worst.
That makes me so fucking. It's just
or like John
God
Kavanaugh
fucking damn
being
it.
like, oh, rounds 4 and 5 count the most in fights unless it's a Conor McGregor fight. Because he says that, but then also that means Conor lost the Nate fight if that's how John Kavanaugh actually scores. So
it's so frustrating. Holy fuck.
yeah, it was rough. But yeah, Big John and Josh Thompson had some really interesting discussions about what actually counts for scoring criteria. And Big John says he's going to be bringing up open scoring in the next rules commission or the next rules committee meeting. So that'll be interesting to see. Cool, man. So I think for new shows, I'm going to try and catch TKO next week. TEAKO. That show seems interesting, and I just didn't have time to get to it this week. I'm also going to try and get to Ceremonial Weigh-In. But some also rans I wanted to shout out here real quick. Off the Cuff, episode 4, which you guys are actually going to hear a clip of on the break. That is fantastic. Just a really good episode. If you guys don't know, that is a panel-style show, kind of like Between the Links, but without the debating. They kind of just discuss topics. Really good. Well, actually, Fernanda Praches did a episode with... I always panic about Fernanda did an episode with on the Fight Beat with Ben Folks. That was real good. I mean, anytime you get Fernanda and Ben Folks talking, I'm in. I'm just fucking in. Because it's always salty and hilarious. Beatdown for the, what is it? Oh, the Beatdown episode, the UFC 247 recap. TJ DeSantis made a really good point that most quote-unquote unanimous scorecards actually have different round winners, so they're actually not unanimous. Like, when you go back and you look at a lot of unanimous decisions, judges don't at all agree on the rounds, which makes it not unanimous. So that's kind of an interesting point that you don't hear discussed a lot. Beatdown After the Bell for UFC 247 was really good with Ant Walker guesting on it. Coffee Talk for UFC 247 with Esther, Casey, and Jose in Houston was good. The Writer and the Fighter, episode 57, was great. If you guys want to hear Jake get really mad at his girlfriend for eating the skin off of leftover chicken, fucking...
Okay, you almost grossed me. I thought you were going to say for, like, eating dead skin off armor.
Eating
like,
the skin off of leftover chicken.
Okay, you're about to... I was like, what the fuck?
Jake also talks about eating an entire pack of Oreos. It's a real good
I
episode.
have done that.
I think everybody has, but...
I think so, yeah.
It's a real good one, though. I recommend it for sure. The MMA Roadshow, episode 255. John Morgan almost made me do a fucking spit take this week. Because I was listening to the intro, and it starts, and it's Sean Sheehan saying, hey, everybody, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/ and then you just hear John Morgan go, the MMA Roadshow. And I thank Sean Sheehan for doing the intro, and Shawnee Podcast said on Twitter, I think today or yesterday, he's like, oh, hey, you're welcome for the intro, John Morgan. So that was hilarious. I literally did a spit take And oh yeah, and they're gonna do their drinking contest, which I'm excited about since there's mad controversy over their last drinking contest, which is hilarious. Yeah, it's a really good episode. Some scrums with Diego Sanchez saying crazy shit. It's pretty wild. Oh, and Cold Coffee's actually back and doing better since he just recently went through surgery and stuff. So it was cool hearing him back and drinking a PBR. So shouts to Cold Coffee. Severe MMA Premium, the State of the UFC episode with James Lynch was really good. That's like the regular series where Sean goes through the kind of different divisions and kind of where they're at and where the UFC is at, the sport as a whole. Between the Links, episode 39 was really solid with guest Kristen King on it. Like that one. iFox with Juice, they did a bonus episode where Juice talks to Andrea Lee, and despite KGB Lee blocking us on Twitter still, it was a good episode, so shouts to them.
So shouts out to KGB Lee. There's a really interesting looking show coming on Amazon. It's called Hunters. She should definitely watch that because her relatives of her ex-husband might be on the show.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Let's see. TSN MMA show, episode 129. Yeah, it's a good one. I enjoyed it. Co-main event podcast, episode 388 was solid. A-side live chat we talked about. And, yeah, those are the main ones I had. So, it was a good week in MMA podcast, but good God, everybody needs to learn the scoring system. So, hopefully we can do that going forward. And we don't have to have these fucking dumb conversations anymore. Did you have any MMA or non-MMA related podcasts you wanted to shout out?
Yeah, man. Since it's officially baseball season, I am fucking stoked.
Are you ready for some baseball? That's the song, right?
Not quite. That was Hank Williams Jr. And the thing that now that you mentioned that guy I remember was banned from the Monday Night Football song for the past like 9 seasons because he had called Obama Hitler on Twitter. I remember that. Anyways, that's not important.
It's a weird move.
Yeah, but they brought him
really
back.
Weird move.
Time. Healing requires time.
That's like a Dog the Bounty Hunter move.
I know. Anyways, Starting 9, Barstool Sports Baseball Podcast with Jared Carabas.
What's the name of it?
Starting 9.
Gotcha. It's because the starting 9 pitchers that you have in baseball?
Or just, you have 9 position players, but yeah, that too. Dallas Braden, former Major League Baseball pitcher for the Oakland Athletics and other teams, who also pitched a perfect game back in the day. He's the co-host of Jared Carabas, who is a massive Boston sports. Well, it's Barstool Sports. Anyways, they discussed the massive trade of Mookie Betts to the Dodgers, which I'm not happy about because I'm a Padres fan. And who likes the Dodgers? Jesus, no one in San Diego should. That's insane because he's the second best player in baseball behind Mike Trout. And they discussed the massive Houston Astros cheating scandal, which, cheating in sports, there's been big scandals across all 4 major sports. Hell, in MMA with steroids, right? Steroids in baseball, which I don't think is a problem, but that's baseball. Makes it more fun. Anyways, yeah, what the Astros did is hilariously bad for the sport. But they had their take on the owner of the Astros had a press conference, which is one of the worst press conferences I've ever seen. Their PR team should be fired. They basically said it had no impact on the game, and the players all gave half-assed apologies, which looked like it was read from a script. It was really hilariously bad.
That checks out.
Yeah, and it's just so funny, just the fallout. And now all the players are talking about, the title should be vacated. Players should be held accountable. But luckily for the players of the Astros that were involved in that cheating scandal, they're protected by the union. So good on the union for protecting cheaters. But it's more or less on the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, who has no balls, and he's just a fucking crony for the owners. Sounds like Roger Goodell of the NFL.
That checks out.
Yeah, so it's interesting. If you're a baseball person, definitely check out Starting 9. If you want to get into baseball, there's other podcasts you can listen to as well too. Or just if you want to get into baseball, and if you happen to live close to a major league sport or major league team, or even like a AAA team, go to a game. Or you know what? I would do, if you have a PlayStation, get MLB The Show. In my opinion, the best sports game out there.
MLB The Show is dope. I don't even fuck with baseball, but I like MLB The Show.
I'm getting MLB 20. I absolutely can't wait because they finally introduced all the live updated minor league rosters.
Oh, nice.
Which is sick. Yeah, man. I'm
Cool.
looking forward to that. Looking forward to baseball season. Looking forward to going to Padres games. You know,
There you
maybe
go.
we could catch a game on a Sunday or some shit if you're down.
Yeah, I fucking hey. I may not like baseball, but Petco Park is dope as shit.
Oh, dude, we're
There's
spoiled.
like 30 bars and restaurants.
It's like because what my strategy is, what you do is you give yourself a budget, say like $80, right, or whatever. You buy the cheaper seats, say $25. Like, okay, I'm still on my budget. Fuck it, let's go to Seaside Market, get some tri-tip sandwiches, fucking pair that shit with the IPA, good to go.
Right.
Yeah. So we are so spoiled.
For sure. For sure. We're actually super spoiled down here. All right, so I got a couple. I've been mostly just most of the podcasts I've been listening to. I actually know what the podcast I've been listening to the most I'll talk about next week because it'll be relevant. Since we are almost in Mardi Gras season, y'all, I am fucking hyped. But getting baked with Tom Papa. Tom Papa started a YouTube series where he's making sourdough, and it might be the most relaxing thing on the planet. I'm pretty convinced. It's just him kind of calmly making sourdough bread, and it's fucking great. I really like it. It's goofy as shit, but I enjoy it. And then the show I've been watching a ton of, since I've been doing a lot of cocktail stuff lately, is How to Drink, which is hosted by a dude named Greg. Basically just cocktail show. He does a bunch of different stuff. He'll do classic cocktails, tiki stuff. He does some like themed stuff from like TV shows, things like that. So pretty cool, and he's super knowledgeable, and everything's really like short, like 10-15 minute chunks on YouTube. Super knowledgeable, gives a lot of references for like tiki stuff, especially gives great references for like books and stuff to learn more. But really enjoy that show, and I've been up in my cocktail game pretty significantly because of it. So shouts to How to Drink. It's dope.
Nice, man.
Cool, dude. Well, we will go ahead and wrap this segment here. When we come back, we are very briefly going to talk about this motherfucking UFC Rancho Rio card, because I'm going to tell you right now, I've done 0 tapes. I watched John Jones Reyes about 6 times this week. I watched 0 tape study for this card. So, we'll see how this goes. But, Chris, you want anything before we get back?
No, that's it for me for right now.
All right. Well, we will be back in just a minute. In the meantime, here is this clip of... Fuck, what's the clip of? I had it off the cuff. Episode 4, where Craig Allen explains why you should be super excited for UFC Rancho Rio. So, we'll be right back.
Liked by the sound of violence.
If I had the card up, I would go through it. Somebody go through the fight card when it's your turn and tell me how it's not a good card.
All right.
All right.
We will.
Mike,
I know
please,
Craig's ready.
please, Mike, me. Okay, Kyle. There's nothing that gets my dick harder than the first fight on this card. You've got 2 guys at
Well, don't
flyweight.
start at the first fight. Come on, start at the top.
Paulian Paiva is a ranked UFC flyweight, and he's 0-2 in the UFC. I don't care if his fight with Kai Kara France was close. He's 0-2 in the UFC. And then you've got Mark De La Rosa, who, oh, by the way, he's lost his last 2 fights. There's nothing that gets me out of bed in the morning more than 2 flyweights that are 0-2 in their respective last 2 fights, kicking off a card in Rio Rancho, New Mexico.
Start at the top, you cheat. You know exactly what to get. Just go to the main card,
Right.
punk.
All right. You've got a guy without a nickname fighting a guy whose former nickname was Beastin 25-8. Great fight. Really excited about that. You've got a guy that believes in the power of thunderstorms and crystals fighting a guy who does moonsaults off the cage. This fight card is like a cracked out dream of a card.
That
It's so
sounded
weird.
incredible.